Welcome to Music's the Hang Up. In this episode, we're interviewing Ahero. He just recently released his new album, Stratosphere, and went out digitally. Then it came out on cassette and sold out pretty quickly. Now, April 13th, the vinyl edition of this record is coming out. So to help promote that, we interviewed Ahero. In less than 4 months, Ahero has went from his first album to having Pad Chennington talk about him, to selling out cassettes, and it looks like he's on the rise in the Vaporwave scene. So in this episode, we will find out how he does it and give you tips on how you can hopefully achieve the same success he has. Let's get into it. All right, welcome to Music's the Hang Up. We have Ahero on the show today, and he's live with us now. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, I'm Ahero, aka Sam, also known as Talk to Me. I make vaporwave, chillwave, synth pop, a little bit of synthwave. I'm a little all over the place.
That's awesome. And so you say you're a vaporwave artist. How did you get into that?
Vaporwave has always been a known thing to me, and I think like most everybody, I got into it through Macintosh Plus. I've done multiple things under different aliases, heavy sampling, and I think that's kind of how everybody starts, but that's how I started.
Right, and it seems like, at least with this project, you just started in January of this year. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was in the works before then, but technically, yeah.
You just got into it. So one thing I do want to point out to the audience is you're kind of an anomaly in the scene. Like I said, You just came in January. It's been 4 months, and you've already had like overnight success. You've had Pad Chennington talk about your albums. A lot of people follow you and like to talk about your music. I've seen a lot of people sharing your music. How have you done it?
Well, I think, in all honesty, I have to credit most of my success here to Pad Chennington. I think without his little review he did in his video, I don't really think I would have gotten where I am now. And of course, I'm huge on advertising. I try and advertise wherever I can, plug my stuff. It's just, you gotta kind of be constant about it without being forceful, but that's just how I've done it.
Do you know how Pad Chennington found it?
Yeah, so he was doing a thing for his Discord specifically, where he was going to review albums from his Discord, and came on and was like, add everybody, hey, submit your albums to me, and I'll review them on a video. I was like, I gotta get my album on this video, and I, of course, added him and shared my album, and a couple of my friends added him and added my album as well. I remember seeing the thumbnail that he put in the Discord, and my album was on it. And that was like one of the most exciting points of my career so far.
Yeah, that's sweet. So you come out with a digital album, and then you announce that you have a 30-run cassette, which actually sells out. How did you get it on cassette?
Well, I do everything myself. I'm a big believer in DIY projects, and of course going to a label is awesome and having them do it even more professionally, but I feel like it's made with much more love and care than if a label were to do it, because you're handling your own album, As, I'm doing it myself, it feels a lot more genuine that each one is handcrafted and, whatnot. Of course, I get my cassettes from a supplier and such, but yeah.
Because of all of this that's coming around, now you're releasing it on vinyl. How are you going to market this differently than the others to ensure like maybe it sells out?
I'm basically going to do the same thing as last time, just advertise, but I want to make sure. I'm also a big believer in bringing more to the masses. I don't like having like limited runs of things, but sometimes you have to because you don't know what the quantity needs to be. So of course for the vinyl I'm going to put up 30, and then if it sells out in a certain amount of time I'll put up more. And of course there will always be represses in the future as I grow and people get into my stuff more. But as a recommendation to everybody, just try to keep putting out stuff. Don't try and make it limited, because that kind of shuns people away from your stuff if you tell them that you're not going to be repressing this or that.
But one thing you do is release only 30. Isn't that kind of contradicting?
Yeah, that is true. But for the first run of cassettes, I actually had a pre-order up, similar to the 100% Electronica album, Deep Fantasy. So I let people buy it for a day or two, and then I put a quantity on it. Then that 30 was on there, and people knew, like, okay, there's 7 left or so. And that's going to happen for future albums. It'll be 30, and then if it sells out in a certain amount of time, I'll just up the quantity. put it on back order or something. But like I said, I like to get people their albums. I don't like, being super strict on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Not only are you an artist, you're now running your own label. What was the decision to start the Stratus Recordings?
That's a tough question because I like having like a brand to put myself behind. And Stratus Recordings isn't just, there's a lot of plans in the future for it, but I don't want it to just be a music label. I want it to be kind of like a style, like a, not a trend, but I don't want to stick to just music. I want to do different things with it. But right now we're sticking to music. And I've done a label in the past that is shut down now because I shut it down to do Stratos so I could focus on that because I want to do bigger runs of things and I want to give people a chance to get their albums out there. It's a label to give the hardworking artists their chance at a physical release.
So you're saying what makes your label stand out is you're looking for original artists in future funk and vaporwave, or what genre, I suppose?
I'm really looking for anything. I'd like to keep it in the electronic scene. Just I don't even know what to say, to be honest. You could just send me your demos and I'll take a look at it. Cause I've got some upcoming releases that are far different from each other. They're nothing alike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, congratulations on starting that. For people that don't know, that did just start April 1st, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so cool. We're 8 days in, and definitely we're seeing a vinyl release from you. So
yeah.
Anyone that's looking for releases on the physical medium, definitely contact Stratus Recordings.
Oh, yeah.
Your vinyl comes out April 13th, and there's a A-side that's never been heard on the track. What else can people look forward to with this release?
Well, I don't think that I'll ever be repressing it in the same color. If I'll even end up repressing it, we'll have to see how much it sells, obviously. I gotta say that if you want to pick this up and you're thinking about it, you should, just because I think having an artist's entire discography to see how far they've come from, like, let's say Cat System Corp, for example. You could have his very early cassettes, which look very DIY and handmade by a smaller label, and then you look now with his High Wraith Studios releases, and they're very professional. They're very nice looking, just fantastic art. They just look awesome. And I think it's really neat to see the progression in that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And that's cool. Do you have any records that you do that for? Any artists that you're collecting?
Oh, yeah. I have a ton of just vapor vinyl and cassettes. I have a lot of my friends' cassettes and stuff. I'm very, very supportive on that side. But Asprey is definitely one of the artists I look at the most. I don't have many of his physical formatted albums, but I'd love to get some of those. So I'm trying to get a full collection of that. I've got the Mirror Kisses stuff. I've got Death's Dynamic Shroud. I've got my own albums from a long time ago, like August last year, and it's crazy to see how far I've come from that. But yeah, I think following an artist solely based on their works and just how far they've come is a great idea.
One thing I do notice in the scene, especially for vaporwave, you guys go normally from cassette to vinyl. Is that a decision that you think people should take, or is it doesn't really matter?
I think it's definitely a big step to take from cassette to vinyl, because vinyl requires a lot more attention, but vinyl is very cool if you know what you're doing. People don't realize that, especially with running a label too, I guess I could work this in here, that you gotta figure out costs and how much it costs to ship from where you're located and where most of your fans are located, so you're not overcharging. And it's kind of a big deal doing vinyl because it's not like a cassette. You can't just dub it, print out a J card on photo paper, fold it, cut it out, whatever, and then dub the cassette, put some sticker paper on it, throw it in a bubble mailer and send it. With vinyl, there's a lot more care that has to come to it, and then there's a longer wait time as well. And, it's a bigger thing. And I think that if you think there's a demand, if you know there's a demand for your album on vinyl, that people will buy it, do it. But there's some albums that just won't fit. Sometimes there's artistic decisions that will prevent you from doing that. Like, there are certain albums that are, like, fit more for cassette, and then there are other albums that are fit for vinyl. Vinyl is just, it's a very expensive thing to do, and you gotta make sure you're very straightened out and there's a demand. But there's a lot more pieces to that puzzle that you gotta connect.
Yeah, very good advice for sure. For people who haven't heard your music before, what would be the top 3 tracks that you would suggest?
Ooh,
Or maybe what's your favorite song you've ever made?
probably the one that I have out right now. It's off Stratospheres. It's Atmosphere Drifting. It's track 3. That's probably my favorite. Or the bonus track that I made for that album. It's the very first bonus track, Ahero.wave. It's very inspired by Esprit, and I like that one a lot. It sounds a lot like video game OST, and it's much my thing. Plus, playing it live is very fun in a live setting.
So yeah, I think that covers most of the questions. I do want to move on to our Twitter community. We did reach out to see if anybody had any questions.
Oh, awesome.
Do you mind if we go through that?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. First one, Nostalgic Plus. He asks, do you know anything about music theory and stuff like that before you started making music?
To be honest, no. When I first started making original compositions, I guess you could call them, I didn't know a single thing. I was messing around on GarageBand on my laptop. I taught myself it. I still don't really know I don't write music. I can't read music. I just hit keys and it sounds good. But I'm getting to know it because I want to make it seem like I know what I'm doing,
National asks, what's your inspiration? That's kind of open-ended, but...
My inspiration is, for those of you who follow me closely and my closer friends, it's definitely George Clanton, Esprit, Mirror Kisses. Stratospheres is very, if you listen to it, it's very Satin Sheets-esque from what I've been told. I don't personally hear it. What I took most of my inspiration from was a lot of the early Esprit stuff, like Summer Nights and Girls Only. Like right now I'm listening to a lot of Shinjuku Mad, a lot of Windows 96, so the new album is definitely going to have a lot of different sound than Stratospheres.
Well, that kind of segments to the next question by, I believe, R Infinity. He asks, if you were to make an album in a different genre that you've never done before, what would you choose and why?
Ooh, I made an album, synth pop album, that's coming out very soon. If I had to make something that in a genre I've never really made, it would probably have to be like rock. To be honest, I've actually considered making a rap album. I don't rap on it, I just produce, kind of like a mixtape almost, throw in a few instrumental tracks and have some guest rappers come on and do that. That'd be cool, but I don't ever see that happening anytime soon.
And then the last question, Microsoft Loops. He asks, when is Miami 2 coming out? I'm not familiar with Miami 2, so if you want to...
Yeah, I could actually talk about my older projects now. So when I was making sampled Vaporwave, I was doing it very lazily for a huge part of the time. And I'm going to admit to that because it was super just garbage. Some of it is just the choppings are off and the sample just doesn't work. And I made an album called Miami. It used a lot of songs from the Hotline Miami soundtrack, like Carpenter Perberator, and I would slow it down and chop the heck out of it. And yeah, it's probably my most hated work by myself. A lot of people seem to like it, but I myself, I see it as lazy, and it's just not my thing. It's on Palm 84 if you want to go and listen to that. It's not the best, but you can go and listen to it if you want.
And what was it titled? What was that project called?
It was titled Miami. It was Miami by Miami. Originally, it was Miami by my old alias, but I changed it to avoid the association. But now, everybody knows anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
All right, I'll definitely put that in the show notes so everybody can make fun of you.
Yeah, you can do that.
I'm just kidding. Cool. All right, well, that wraps that up. Any final thoughts? Any projects coming out in 2019?
Yeah, my synth pop album, very Mirror Kisses-esque, bedroom pop, super amateur type stuff, comes out on April 20th, 420 Weed Day, whatever you want to call it. Gonna have a run of 30 cassettes on pretty pink cassettes, transparent pink. And I'm working on a new album right now under Ahero. It's it's getting there. We're getting there. I've got a few tracks done. I've got some good features on there. I've got some friends on there. It's going to sound real good. And I'm releasing it through a different label, which I can't really talk about right now. So we'll leave it at that. And I also want to shout out some of my friends from the Pad Chennington Discord. If you're ever on Discord at all, you're active, come and say hi. I'm always active on there. So we need more people active on that server. It's kind of barren.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I'll put a link to all that. Whatever you want to send me, I'll put in the show notes, and I'll let everybody find whatever information you want them to find.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that wraps it up. I appreciate your time, Ahero. Where can people find you?
People can find me at stratosrecordings.bandcamp.com, or if you want to look at my older stuff, I'm on a few labels like Palm 84 and Photoshop. So if you really want to dig through that and try and figure out which one is me, have fun with that. Also, you can find me on Twitter at BBSneep, SNEEPE, and my label is Stratos Record, all one word, at Stratos Record.
All right, that was an awesome interview. I really appreciate your time, Ahero, and I think we learned a lot. Hopefully you guys can apply that kind of information to your music production and selling your stuff out there to your fans. If you enjoyed this kind of thing, be sure to stay up to date on Future Funk and Vaporwave at Music's to Hang Up on both Twitter and Instagram. If you're looking for a way to be on top of all releases, digitally, cassettes, vinyls, and concerts, we have an awesome events page that has a calendar for every day of each month where there's releases coming out. It's a great way to stay on top of things. You guys should definitely check it out. It's at musicstohangup.com/events. If you're an artist that wants to get your music on there, go ahead and contact me on Twitter at musicstohangup. We have free tier and paid tier that allows you to get your music out there to people who may not have heard it. And it's a great way to just really allow me to stay on top of your stuff so I can promote it, even if you're not interested in a payment plan. I'm trying to provide as much content as possible to the Future Funk and Vaporwave scene. It helps me out a lot to have people telling me when they're releasing things, so I'm not constantly digging the crates to try and find them. In the background, we have the song, Soaring. I'm going to let this song play off. Until next time, cheers.